I came home later than usual that day, my hair still damp from the drizzle outside, my shoulders aching after a long hospital shift. All I wanted was to walk into my apartment, take off my shoes and breathe for the first time since morning. My son Matteo was finally sleeping through the night, but motherhood and returning to work hadn't been easy. Every day felt like a delicate balancing act, one misstep and everything threatened to fall apart. As I pushed open the door, the apartment was unusually quiet. Not peaceful quiet, unnatural quiet. My husband Adrian sat on the couch with his elbows on his knees, hands clasped together, staring at the floor. His phone was face down on the coffee table, something he never did unless he was hiding messages. My mother-in-law, Teresa, stood near the kitchen counter, arms crossed, lips pulled tight as if she were holding something sour in her mouth. I froze in the doorway. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Teresa spoke first. "Oh good, you're here," she said. "We need to talk." My pulse quickened. About what? She and Adrian shared a look heavy enough to crush the air from my lungs. Then she said it. About the DNA test. The grocery bag slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a soft thud, apples rolling across the hardwood. My throat tightened, my vision blurred for a split second. "What DNA test?" I whispered. Teresa lifted her chin. "The test I took from Matteo." I blinked, unable to process the words. You what?" Adrian rubbed his forehead. "Please don't make this dramatic." "Dramatic," my voice cracked. "You tested my baby behind my back." Teresa stepped forward, unbothered by my shaking voice. I did what any responsible mother would do. I needed to be sure. "Sure of what?" I demanded. She didn't hesitate. "That the child is my son's." The air left my lungs. My hands trembled. Adrian didn't defend me, he didn't stop her, he didn't tell her she was insane. He just sat there, silent. Like he agreed. My voice dropped to a whisper. "You think Matteo isn't Adrian's?" Teresa walked closer, her perfume suffocatingly sweet. "Well dear, you got pregnant awfully fast, and you were working those night shifts, and your co-workers, some of them are men, aren't they?" My stomach twisted. She had always been like this, judging, calculating, watching me with cold eyes that stripped the warmth from every room. But this was a new level of cruelty. I looked at Adrian, "And you let her do this?" He didn't answer. He couldn't even look at me. Something broke inside my chest, softly, almost quietly, like a thin bone snapping under pressure. Teresa continued, her voice dripping with false concern. "The results came today." I swallowed hard, and... She didn't blink. "They were suspicious." My heart dropped to the floor. Suspicious? How? Why? What did that even mean? But before I could ask anything, Teresa reached into her handbag, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and placed it on the table like evidence. "Read it." My hands shook as I approached the table. Adrian still wouldn't look at me. I unfolded the paper, my fingertips trembling, eyes scanning the printed text. And then I felt the room tilt. Because the result said, probability of paternity, 32%. My knees nearly buckled. No. Impossible. This couldn't be real. Teresa crossed her arms smugly. "There, now you see why we needed answers." My vision blurred. This is wrong. There's something wrong with this test." Teresa shrugged. "Or with your story." I felt heat rise to my face, not from shame but fury. I was never unfaithful, never. Adrian finally lifted his head. His eyes were filled with something I never expected to see there. "Doubt. Maria," he said quietly, "just tell me the truth." The truth? He thought I was lying. That I cheated on him. That Matteo wasn't his. I stared at him, disbelief numbing my body. "You actually think I would do that to you?" He stood up slowly. "Then help me understand how this result makes sense." Tears strung my eyes, not because of the accusation, but because of how easily he made it. "How long have you doubted me?" I whispered. He didn't answer. Which was answer enough. Teresa stepped beside him, placing a hand on his arm like a proud puppeteer. "Sweetheart, don't let her manipulate you. We'll do another test, a proper one, a legal one. I shook my head. You're insane. No, she said coldly. I'm protecting my son from a woman who may have trapped him with another man's baby. A sharp pain shot through my chest. You think I trapped him? Her smile was thin, poisonous. Women like you do. Women like me. Poor background. Nurse. No wealthy family. No privileges. No social reputation. In Teresa's eyes, I had always been beneath them, but now she had found the perfect weapon. A DNA test result. My voice came out barely audible. Where did you get this test? What lab? What chain of custody? Teresa rolled her eyes. Do you think I'm telling you that? I clenched my fists. I felt something dark and sharp forming inside me, not fear, not insecurity, but clarity. They weren't just suspicious. They were plotting. This wasn't about the baby. This wasn't about truth. This was about removing me. From Adrian's life. From their family. From Matteo's future. I forced myself to breathe. I want another test, a real one. I'll go through the court if I have to. Teresa smirked. Oh, honey, there won't be a court, not today, not tomorrow. And why is that? She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Because once Adrian files for emergency custody, you won't have access to the baby to take any more tests. My blood turned to ice. Emergency custody. Adrian looked away. He knew. He knew before she even said it. I felt the world crack under my feet. You're taking my baby from me, I whispered. Teresa tilted her head, her voice soft and cruel. We're doing what's best for Matteo. No, I said, my voice breaking. You're doing what's best for you. She didn't deny it. Instead, she turned toward the hallway, looking at my baby's closed bedroom door. He deserves to be raised in a real family, not... I snapped. Finish that sentence, I said, stepping toward her. Say one more word about me not being a real mother. Adrian stepped between us. Enough, both of you. But his voice wasn't strong. It was scared. He was losing control. Good. Let him feel what I had felt for months. I wiped my tears. I'm getting a new test, a real one, and when the truth comes out you will regret every word you said. Teresa smirked. We'll see. I stared at Adrian. And you, if you let her take him, I swear you'll never. Maria, he said, voice trembling, please don't make this harder. I felt my heart fracture. He wasn't protecting me. He wasn't protecting Matteo. He was protecting her. And right then, something inside me shifted. Whatever came next, I wouldn't face it with fear. I would face it with fire. I lifted my chin. You picked the wrong woman to accuse. And I walked past them toward my son's room. Toward the truth they weren't ready for. Toward a war they didn't realize they had started. That night I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes I saw the same image, Teresa standing in my living room, arms crossed, eyes sharp and triumphant, telling me she had taken a DNA test from my baby. Matteo's breathing beside me was the only thing that kept me from falling apart completely. His tiny chest rising and falling, so peaceful, unaware of the storm brewing around him. I placed my hand on his back just to remind myself, this child is mine. No test, no paper, no manipulative mother-in-law could make me doubt that. But Adrian's silence, that was what hurt the most. Not Teresa's accusations, not the forged-sounding test results, not the threats about emergency custody. It was the fact that my husband, my partner, my supposed safe place, sat there quietly like he had been waiting for proof I had cheated, like he had been expecting it, like it made sense to him. By 6 a.m. the sun was barely out, but my mind was already spiraling. I got up, gently lifted Matteo from his crib and brought him to the living room. I fed him, held him against my chest and planned my next steps. I knew Teresa wasn't bluffing. She was confident, too confident. That meant she had already talked to someone. A lawyer maybe, a social worker, someone who could move quickly. And Adrian, his hesitation told me everything. He was considering custody. Taking my baby from me. My hands clenched tight around the bottle I was holding. I forced myself to breathe slowly. Rage wouldn't help, panic wouldn't help. What I needed now was clarity. I strapped Matteo into his carrier. Today I would find out the truth, a real test, a real result, no manipulation. No, Teresa. As I grabbed my bag and headed to the door, I heard Adrian's footsteps behind me. Where are you going? He asked, his voice groggy but tense. I didn't turn around. Out. With the baby. Of course, with the baby. There was a moment of silence. Then, Maria, can we just talk? I slowly turned. He looked exhausted, hair messy, eyes swollen, but what bothered me most was the guilt in his expression. Not guilt because he had hurt me, guilt because he was afraid I'd do something he didn't control. What is there to talk about? I asked quietly. He stepped closer. About the test, about everything, Mom said. I cut him off. I don't care what your mother said. He flinched. I did lower my voice. You let her take a DNA test from our child. You let her accuse me of infidelity. You let her threaten me with custody. Adrian rubbed the back of his neck. I don't know what to think, the result said. That result is fake, I said sharply, and you know it, or at least you should. He swallowed. Then how do you explain it? You want an explanation, I said, stepping closer. Fine, come with me, we'll redo the test, properly, legally, with a chain of custody. He looked uncertain. Now. Yes, now. His jaw tightened, not in confidence, in fear. Fear of the answer. Or fear that the truth might expose his mother. He looked away. I have to work today. Of course, convenient. I nodded slowly. Then I'll go alone. He hesitated. Maria, please don't make rash decisions. If you take him without telling me. Without telling you, I repeated, laughing bitterly. You mean the way your mother took my child without telling me? Adrian went silent. That silence said everything. I walked out the door. As soon as I stepped outside, my hands were trembling, but my resolve was steady. I wasn't going to let Teresa dictate my life. She wasn't going to destroy my marriage or my motherhood without a fight. I drove straight to the hospital where I worked, not to my department but to a private testing clinic in the East Wing. I explained the situation carefully, truthfully. I needed a private, legally monitored DNA test. The nurse, a woman named Clara, looked at me with sympathy. You're not the first wife to come here for something like this, she said gently. We'll take care of you. Her reassurance loosened something tight inside my chest. The test was completed in under 30 minutes. Samples sealed. Documents signed. Chain of custody documented. Results in 48 hours. As I strapped Matteo back into the car seat, Clara touched my shoulder. Whatever the result is, just know you're doing the right thing. I nodded, though my heart felt heavy, not because I feared the truth, but because of what this test symbolized. No wife should have to prove fidelity to her husband. No mother should have to prove her child belongs to the family. But Teresa had forced my hand. As I drove home, I mentally prepared for whatever came next. Adrian would ask questions, Teresa would accuse me, there would be arguments, maybe even legal threats. But I wasn't the same woman I had been yesterday. Something inside me had hardened. When I entered the apartment, Teresa was already there. Of course she was. She stood in the living room like she owned the place, holding a folder and pretending to examine some papers. Adrian sat on the couch, elbows on his knees again, as if this posture had become his new identity. Teresa looked me up and down, took the baby somewhere without informing us. Interesting. As if she and Adrian were a united front, as if I were the outsider in my own marriage. I don't have to inform you of anything, I said coldly. You are not his parent. Teresa's eyes narrowed. Not legally, maybe, but biologically, that's what we're trying to determine, aren't we? Her voice slithered into my bones. Adrian stood, raising a hand. Mom, please. Teresa ignored him. So, where did you go? Another hospital, another secret test. I stared at her, expression emotionless. Don't worry, I finally said. You'll know soon enough. Teresa smirked. You think you can outsmart me? No, I said softly. I think you underestimate me. For the first time she paused. Slightly. But enough. She walked closer. Let me make something clear, Maria. My son deserves certainty, stability, a child that is unquestionably his. My jaw tightened. Matteo is unquestionably his. Her lips curled. We'll see. I walked past her, gently rocking Matteo as he fussed. But then Adrian grabbed my arm, not hard but firmly enough to stop me. Maria, he said quietly, I need the truth. I looked into his eyes, searching for the man I had married. Adrian, I whispered, if you need a DNA result to believe in me, then you never loved me. His grip loosened. His mouth opened. No words came out. He didn't deny it. He didn't reassure me. He didn't fight for me. He just stood there, torn between his mother and his wife. And somehow still choosing his mother. I walked away. The next 2 days were suffocating. Teresa visited daily, hovering, questioning, hinting, implying. Adrian avoided me, leaving early for work, coming home late. He wasn't sleeping in our bed anymore. He slept on the couch, claiming he needed space to think. Space to doubt me. Space to doubt our son. On the morning the results were due, I woke with a knot in my stomach. Not fear, anticipation. Today everything would be exposed, the lies, the manipulation, the truth Teresa tried to hide. At 10:12 a.m. my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My breath caught. The nurse. With trembling hands I answered, hello. Maria, the results are ready. You can come pick them up. My heart pounded. Are you allowed to tell me on the phone? A pause. Then Clara said softly, yes. I braced myself. She exhaled. The probability of paternity is 99.8%. Matteo is Adrian's biological son. Tears blurred my vision. Not because I didn't already know, but because someone had tried to take this truth from me. Someone had tried to destroy my family using a lie. I closed my eyes, letting the relief wash over me. Thank you, I whispered. Clara hesitated. And Maria, the previous test your mother-in-law brought up, it couldn't have been legitimate, not with the numbers she claimed. I knew that already. Teresa lied. Or worse. She doctored the result. I hung up and buckled Matteo into his car seat again. My heartbeat steadied, not with fear but with determination. Today, Teresa's game ended. When I walked into the apartment, Adrian and Teresa were already waiting, both sitting stiffly as if expecting a verdict. Teresa raised an eyebrow. Well. I placed the envelope on the table. Adrian reached for it. Teresa grabbed his wrist. Let her speak. I looked her dead in the eyes. The test was conclusive. Another pause. And I stepped closer. Matteo is Adrian's son. Adrian let out a breath of pure relief. Teresa didn't. Her face turned pale, her posture froze, her eyes widened not in shock, not in disappointment, but in fear. Because she realized something. If this result was real, then hers was fake. She had been caught. I leaned in slightly. Would you like to explain your test now? Teresa swallowed. Adrian slowly turned his head toward her. Mom, he asked softly, what is she talking about? Teresa stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. She's manipulating you. I interrupted. Your test was fabricated. She glared at me. You don't know that. Yes. Yes, I did. Your result was statistically impossible. The lab said the numbers were tampered with. Adrian's face drained of color. Mom, he said again, voice cracking. Teresa opened her mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time since I had known her, she had no script, no manipulation, no control, just silence. And in that silence, Adrian realized the truth. His mother had tried to break his marriage. She had lied. She had stolen a DNA sample from his child. She had tried to take custody of her own grandson. I watched as realization shattered him. He stepped back from her, Mom, tell me you didn't. Teresa reached for him. He stepped away. Mom. Her face twisted. I did what I had to do. No, Adrian whispered. You tried to destroy my family. I stood there quietly, holding Matteo close. This moment wasn't my victory. It was their reckoning. Adrian sank onto the couch, staring at the floor the same way he had the night everything began. Teresa looked at me with pure hatred, not because she won or lost, but because her son finally saw her for who she really was. And this was only the beginning. The real fallout hadn't even started yet. For a long moment the apartment was suffocatingly silent. Adrian sat frozen on the couch, his hands trembling slightly, his eyes unfocused as if he were replaying every moment of the past few weeks and trying to understand how he had let it all happen. Teresa stood rigid, her jaw clenched, her eyes darting between him and me, as if she could still find a way to spin this, twist this, control the damage. But the damage was done. I held Matteo against my chest, his little hand curled into my sweater, his breathing soft and steady, unaware of the war unfolding around him. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. The truth sat in the room like a storm that had finally broken, loud, inevitable, impossible to ignore. Adrian rubbed his forehead. I trusted you, he whispered to his mother, his voice cracked and quiet. I trusted you when you said we needed answers. I trusted you when you said something felt off. I trusted you when you told me Maria was hiding something. Teresa stepped toward him. Sweetheart. He flinched. Actually flinched. Her face fell for a second, shocked. She wasn't used to losing control. She wasn't used to her son pulling away from her. She wasn't used to consequences. You lied to me, he said louder this time, pain spilling through his voice. You threatened my wife. You tried to take my child. You forged whatever that was. Why would you do this? Teresa straightened again, her mask sliding back into place. I did it because I love you, she snapped. Because a mother sees things you don't. That woman, she stabbed a finger in my direction, has changed you, controlled you, pulled you away from your family. I laughed quietly. I couldn't help it. It slipped out like something involuntary, a sound carved from exhaustion and disbelief. Teresa spun toward me. Is something funny? I met her gaze without blinking. You're unbelievable. You tried to kidnap my child, commit fraud, destroy my marriage, and you're still trying to play the victim. Her nostrils flared. You think you are so innocent. From the moment you stepped into this family, you had one goal, to take Adrian away from me. Adrian shot up from the couch. Mom, stop. She didn't. You got pregnant so fast, she hissed. You trapped him before he could see what kind of woman you really are. That's enough, Adrian said sharply. His voice cracked like a whip through the room, loud enough to startle Matteo in my arms. I gently rocked him, whispering softly until he settled again. Teresa looked stunned. She wasn't used to Adrian raising his voice. Not at her. Mom, he said slowly, painfully, you need to leave. The words seemed to hit her physically. She actually stumbled backward a step. What? She whispered. You heard me, Adrian said, staring at the floor because he couldn't bear to meet her eyes. You need to go home right now. I can't. His voice broke. I can't look at you. For a moment she was silent. Then her face twisted into something hateful, something almost primal. This isn't over, she said slowly. You'll see, one day you'll realize what she's done to you. Mom, please, he murmured, just go. Teresa's eyes flicked to me one last time, burning with a promise I understood instantly. She would come back. She would find another angle, another lie, another way to twist the knife. But for now she had lost the battle, and she hated me for it more than anything. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled on the wall. Adrian stood there, shoulders slumped, breathing uneven. For a long time he didn't move, didn't speak, didn't look at me. He whispered finally, I'm so sorry. But the words didn't land the way he thought they would. They didn't bring healing. They didn't ease the pressure in my chest. They felt small, fragile, too light for the weight of what had happened. I believed her, he said, voice cracking. I believed my mother over you, over my own wife. I didn't answer immediately. What could I say? He stepped closer, hands shaking. I didn't think you cheated, I swear I didn't. But the test, the numbers, it scared me. It made me doubt things I never should have doubted. I looked at him slowly. You didn't think I cheated? He hesitated. And that hesitation was the answer. A quiet knock came from inside my heart, a break, a fracture, a cold realization. It didn't matter what he said now, because deep down he had believed I was capable of betrayal. He had believed I could lie. He had believed I could bring another man's child into this marriage. And nothing could erase that. I moved past him, feeling him reach out as if to stop me. I didn't pull away sharply. I wasn't angry. Not at the surface. What I felt was deeper, colder, sadder. Maria, he whispered, please talk to me. I gently shifted Matteo in my arms. I need time. That wasn't a lie. It wasn't manipulation. It wasn't punishment. I truly needed time, to breathe, to think, to understand what this meant. For our marriage. For our future. For my heart. Adrian nodded slowly. His shoulders trembled as he let out a shaky exhale. I'll do anything, anything to fix this. I believed him, or at least I believed that he believed what he was saying in this moment, but trust was never rebuilt in a moment, and it certainly wasn't rebuilt with a single apology. When night came, he slept on the couch again, not because I asked him to, but because he couldn't bring himself to sleep beside me, not when he knew I didn't feel safe with him yet. At around 3 a.m. I woke suddenly. Matteo was stirring, making small noises. As I rocked him gently in the dim glow of the nightlight, I heard quiet sobs from the living room. Adrian, crying. I didn't move, I didn't go to him, I didn't comfort him. I just listened. His guilt wasn't my responsibility to carry. The next morning, everything felt heavy and fragile. Adrian left for work early, barely touching his coffee. Teresa didn't show up, not that she would dare, not after what happened. The apartment felt too quiet, too still. And yet, for the first time in days, I could breathe. But peace never lasts long in stories like mine. At noon, as I was feeding Matteo on the couch, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. When he realizes what you've done, he'll come back to me. No name. No signature. But I knew exactly who it was. Teresa. A low fire ignited inside me, not rage, not fear. Resolve. She wasn't finished. But neither was I. I deleted the message without replying. Matteo's tiny fingers curled around mine, and something inside me steadied. I wasn't fighting for my marriage. I was fighting for my child. My life. My dignity. By evening, when Adrian returned home looking exhausted and hollow, he opened his mouth to speak, but before he could say anything, his phone buzzed. He read the message. His expression changed. Slowly. Painfully. He looked at me, confusion and sadness battling in his eyes. What is this? He whispered, turning the phone screen toward me. Another message. From Teresa. I'm sorry, sweetheart, I know you're hurting, but I won't let her destroy you. She's dangerous. She lied about the test. She's manipulating you, she trapped you. Come home, we'll talk. But what made Adrian's face drain of color wasn't the message. It was the screenshot attached. A photo of a document. A document with my name on it. A document I had never seen before. A document Teresa wanted Adrian to believe was real. A petition. For full custody. Filed by me. Against him. Falsely created. Falsely dated. Falsely signed. My breath caught in my throat. She wasn't done hurting me. She was escalating. And the war had officially begun. Adrian stared at the document on his phone, his hands trembling slightly as he scrolled through the image. His eyes moved across every line, every forged signature, every false accusation, like he was trying to convince himself it wasn't real, that he wasn't seeing what he thought he was seeing. But disbelief was slowly, painfully giving way to something else. Fear. Not fear of losing Matteo. Fear of learning just how far his mother was willing to go. I didn't speak, I couldn't. Words were too small for what I felt, not anger, not shock, but a quiet, heavy disbelief that someone could forge an entire custody document just to break apart a marriage. Teresa's determination wasn't normal. It wasn't protective. It wasn't maternal love. It was obsession. Adrian swallowed hard, his voice thin. Maria, did you file this? I didn't look at the phone, I looked at him. No, I said firmly, I would never. He nodded slowly, but not fully, not completely. The doubt was there again, flickering, uninvited, unwelcome. And that doubt cut deeper than anything Teresa could ever forge. I reached for Matteo, who was playing on his blanket nearby, gently tapping a toy against the floor. His innocence was the only stable thing in this collapsing room. I held him against my chest and rocked him softly, grounding myself in his steady warmth. Let me see it, I said finally. Adrian handed me his phone with a shaking hand. The document on the screen was detailed. Too detailed. My full name, address, Matteo's birth date, Adrian's workplace, even fabricated claims that Adrian had been emotionally unstable, aggressive, and unsafe around the child. It was disgusting, precise, planned. Teresa had not thrown this together in anger. She had prepared it. She had waited for the right moment. She had created her own evidence. To take my child. I scrolled to the signature line. A shaky attempt at my handwriting. But wrong. Too round, too rushed, too inconsistent. Anyone who actually knew me would spot the forgery instantly. But Adrian, he didn't know, or maybe he didn't trust himself to know. How long has she been planning this? I murmured. Adrian closed his eyes. I don't know, I swear I don't know. I handed the phone back to him. Do you believe this? He hesitated. Just 1 second. But 1 second was all it took. Silence wrapped around us like cold fog, heavy, unavoidable, real. A hollow, bitter laugh escaped my throat before I could stop it. So that's all it takes. 1 fake document, 1 message from your mother, and you're ready to believe I'm trying to take your child away. Adrian's eyes snapped open. No, that's not Maria, I just needed to ask. You needed to ask, I repeated softly. You needed to ask your wife, if she forged court papers to steal her own baby. He looked at the floor, guilt washing over him. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. Yes, I said quietly, you did. He sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. This is getting out of control, he whispered. My mother, she's never done anything like this before. I walked closer, my voice low and steady. Your mother is dangerous. He flinched. She's not thinking clearly, he insisted. She's just scared, she thinks she's losing me. And she was willing to frame me for custody fraud to get you back, I asked. He didn't answer. Because there was no answer that could make sense of this. I took a slow breath. I needed clarity, not emotion, not panic. You need to send her a message, I said. A clear one right now, before this escalates even further. Adrian reached for his phone, hesitated, then typed slowly. Mom, we need to talk. This document is fake. Stop whatever you're doing, please. He hovered his thumb over the send button. I watched him. His hesitation spoke more loudly than any words. He was still afraid to upset her. Still afraid to confront her fully. Still afraid to choose a side. I closed my eyes for a moment. He pressed send. The message delivered. Read within seconds. We waited. 3 dots appeared on his screen. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. And then her reply came. I don't know what she told you, but she's lying. Everything I did was to protect you and Matteo. She's trying to manipulate you. She filed that document. I only found out and sent it to you so you could be prepared. My breath caught in my throat. Unbelievable. She was doubling down. Lying more. Covering her tracks. Painting me as the abuser. Painting herself as the savior. Adrian's hands shook harder. Maria, she's completely lost. No, I said softly. She knows exactly what she's doing. He looked up at me, eyes red. What do we do? The question caught me off guard. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I hadn't expected him to ask me. He had been doubting me, distrusting me, listening to his mother over me. And now he was asking for direction. I sat beside him. We take this to a lawyer, I said. We show them the forged document. We get everything documented, every message, every test, every threat. Adrian's voice cracked. You want to press charges against my mother? I didn't hesitate. If she keeps escalating, yes. He swallowed hard. This was the line he had avoided his whole life. The boundary he never set. The person he never defied. And now, because of her jealousy, her manipulation, her obsession, he was seeing the truth he had been blind to for years. His mother was not protecting him. She was destroying him. And she was willing to take down anyone who stood in her way. I don't want to lose her, he whispered, tears sliding down his face. I stared at him, feeling both pity and anger twist inside me. You already lost her, I said softly, the moment she decided to tear your family apart. He closed his eyes. Matteo whimpered, waking from his nap, and I lifted him gently, cradling him close. His tiny body relaxed against mine. Adrian watched him with a mixture of love and fear. Maria, I don't know how to fix this. I rocked Matteo gently, staring at the floor as truth settled heavily on my shoulders. You can't fix what she broke, I said quietly, but you can stop her from breaking anything else. He nodded slowly. The apartment felt too small, too quiet. Every breath carried tension. Every shadow felt heavy. Every heartbeat echoed the same truth. This wasn't over. Not even close. That night, after putting Matteo to sleep, I walked into the living room and found Adrian sitting in the dark, staring at the forged custody document again. Like he was hopping. The more he read it, the more unreal it would become. He looked up when he heard me. Do you think she'll stop? I spoke honestly. No. He exhaled slowly. Do you think she'll try something worse? I paused, then nodded. He put his hands over his face. God, what have I done? I didn't answer. Guilt was a heavy thing. He would carry it for a long time. We sat in silence until his phone buzzed again. Teresa. Another message. If you don't come home tomorrow, I'll know she forced you. I will take action. My stomach tightened. She wasn't stopping. She was escalating. Fast. I took a deep breath. Adrian, I said quietly, tomorrow morning we're calling a lawyer. He nodded, defeated. Okay. But as I walked back to the bedroom, holding my sleeping son close, one terrifying thought echoed in my mind. A person desperate to keep control. A person obsessed with their son. A person willing to forge documents and steal DNA samples. What would she do next? I didn't know. But I knew one thing with chilling clarity. Whatever came next, Teresa was preparing for war. The next morning began with a heaviness I couldn't shake. Even the air inside the apartment felt different, thicker, colder, as if Teresa's presence lingered in every corner. Matteo woke early, fussing lightly, and I held him close, breathing in the soft scent of his hair. He was warm, soft, innocent, unaware of how close he had come to being ripped out of my arms by someone who claimed to love him. Adrian sat at the kitchen table, staring into his untouched coffee, elbows on the table, hands clasped in front of his mouth. He looked like a man who hadn't truly slept in days. His eyes were red and puffy. His shoulders sagged as if carrying weights no one else could see. Maria, he said quietly as I walked in, can we talk before we call the lawyer? I didn't answer immediately. I placed Matteo in his high chair and handed him a small soft toy. Only then did I sit across from Adrian. Talk, I said. He swallowed hard, the muscles in his jaw tightening. I need to know something, and please don't get upset. My chest tightened. Adrian, I warned softly. He exhaled shakily. Have you ever, even for a moment, thought about leaving me, filing something against me, talking to a lawyer behind my back? I stared at him. Really stared. Because the man sitting in front of me wasn't the same one who held my hand when Matteo was born. He wasn't the same man who painted the nursery walls while joking he'd probably spill paint everywhere. He wasn't the same man who once told me I was the best thing that ever happened to him. This man was damaged, broken, twisted by doubt that didn't come from his own heart. but from his mother's whispers slowly poisoning him until he couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't. "No," I said firmly. "I never planned to leave you, I never talked to a lawyer, I never filed anything against you." He nodded, but his eyes flickered down, shame, confusion, fear. "I believe you," he whispered. But the tremor in his voice told me he didn't fully believe anything anymore. I took a slow breath. "Adrian, your mother has been planting these ideas in your head for months, maybe years. This isn't new. She's always seen me as the threat." He closed his eyes. "I know." "Do you?" I said. "Do you really? Because everything she did, the DNA test, the forged result, the fake custody papers, wasn't about Matteo. It was about control, about ownership, about keeping you under her thumb." He dragged a hand through his hair. "I don't want to believe she'd do something like this." "You have to believe what she did," I said quietly, "not what you wish she was." He looked at me with broken eyes, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a flicker of pity. He wasn't just my husband, he was a child raised under a woman who weaponized love, guilt, obligation. He wasn't just manipulated, he was trained to be manipulated. But understanding didn't erase the damage he allowed. I stood up. "Get ready, we're going." He nodded. After feeding Matteo and packing his diaper bag, we left. The drive to the attorney's office was silent except for Matteo's soft babbling in the back seat. Adrian kept glancing at me, like he wanted to say something but didn't know how. We parked outside a tall building with reflective windows. The kind of place where polished floors and quiet hallways hid 1,000 messy human stories. Divorces, custody battles, betrayals, everything Teresa was pushing us toward. Inside, the attorney, a woman named Lynette, greeted us. She was in her late 40s, poised, sharp-eyed, the kind of person you instinctively didn't lie to. She motioned us to sit. "How can I help you?" Adrian looked at me, then at her. "My mother forged a custody petition." Lynette didn't blink. "Show me." He handed her his phone. She enlarged the screenshot, scanned each line with quick precision, then sat back. "This is fake," she said immediately. "The formatting is inconsistent, the signature is off, the filing number doesn't exist, whoever made this has no legal training." Adrian exhaled shakily. "But," she said, her tone shifting, "this is more serious than fraud. This is evidence of intent." "Intent?" I asked quietly. She nodded. "Intent to interfere with custody, intent to manipulate the court, intent to remove parental rights. In some states this is considered custodial interference or even attempted kidnapping. A judge won't tolerate this." Adrian paled. "She could be arrested," Lynette added. The words hit the air like a dropped glass shattering on tile. Adrian whispered, "Jail. You think she could actually go to jail?" "If you chose to press charges," the attorney said. "If you provide evidence, if you testify that she stole your child's DNA, forged legal papers, and attempted to turn your wife into a criminal." The room felt colder suddenly. Adrian's breathing grew uneven. I can't send my mother to jail," he said softly. I looked at him calmly. "She didn't hesitate to take your son away from you." He closed his eyes. Lynette leaned forward. "You have two options. 1, report her. That will stop her permanently. 2, issue a cease and desist order documented legally instructing her to cease all contact with the child until further notice. Violate it and she faces legal consequences." Adrian swallowed. "And what do you recommend?" She glanced between us. "For the safety of your child, I recommend distance." The silence that followed stretched painfully. When we left the attorney's office, Adrian looked shaken. The weight of the truth, the real truth, was finally pressing down on him. In the car, he whispered, "I didn't know she was capable of this, I didn't see it." "Yes," I said quietly, "you didn't." He winced. We drove home in heavy silence, but the moment we stepped inside, something felt off. The air was colder. The curtains were slightly open. A faint scent, something floral, cheap, hung in the air. My muscles tensed instantly. Adrian noticed too. "Did you leave the window cracked?" "No." I stepped further in, my pulse quickening, my fingers tightening on Matteo's carrier. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Adrian walked to the kitchen slowly, cautiously. And then he froze. "Marriott," he whispered, "in here." My stomach dropped. I moved carefully, heart pounding, Matteo squirming lightly against my chest. There on the kitchen table, surrounded by scattered mail and keys and yesterday's grocery bag, sat a small white envelope. My name written on it. No stamp. No address. No returns. Someone had placed it inside our home. I felt cold all over. Adrian picked it up with trembling fingers. Inside was a single printed sentence. If you think you can keep him from me, you're wrong. No signature. But we knew. Oh, we knew. Teresa had crossed another line. And the war was no longer theoretical. It was inside our home. Adrian's hand shook as he held the envelope. For a moment he didn't breathe, didn't blink, didn't move. He just stared at that single sentence printed in a bold, cold, emotionless font. If you think you can keep him from me, you're wrong. The words felt like ice gliding down my spine. My throat tightened. My hands reflexively clutched Matteo closer to my chest. His warmth, his soft weight, the sweet baby smell, everything about him reminded me of what was at stake. Teresa wasn't threatening us anymore. She was threatening my child. Adrian sank into a chair as if his legs had given out. She came into our home, he whispered. She was inside the house. I scanned the room carefully, mail stack slightly moved, drawer half open, rug a little crooked. It wasn't much, but it was enough to tell me she didn't just step in to drop an envelope. She looked around, she wandered, she touched things. Did you lock the door when we left this morning? I asked quietly. Adrian's eyes widened. Yes, I remember turning the lock. Did you give her another key? No, he whispered, horrified that I even asked. I swear I didn't. I don't know how she... I cut him off gently. She probably had a copy made months ago, maybe years before I ever moved in. He buried his face in his hands, breathing shakily. I should have changed the locks after everything that happened. You should have, I said softly, but you didn't. His shoulders trembled. The weight of reality was crushing him, and honestly I wanted him to feel it. He had defended her, believed her, enabled her, and now her obsession had escalated to breaking into our home and leaving a threat on the table like a signature on a battlefield. I needed to stay calm for Matteo, but inside, fury burned quietly, steadily, like a flame fueled by every violation, every lie, every moment I had been doubted. Give me your phone, I said. Adrian handed it to me without hesitation. I took photos of the envelope, of the note, of the table, the drawer, everything that looked even slightly disturbed. Maria, what are you doing? Documenting, I said. We need evidence, all of it. He nodded weakly. Do you think she's watching us right now? I looked toward the living room window. The curtains were slightly parted, a gap barely the width of 2 fingers. I closed them slowly. I don't know, I answered honestly, but she crossed from manipulation to trespassing, and next. I swallowed. Next could be kidnapping. Adrian's entire body stiffened. She would never take Matteo. I turned my head sharply. Adrian, she already tried to legally take him. She tried to forge a document to claim custody. She tested our baby behind our back. She broke into our home. Don't tell me what she wouldn't do. He stared at me, chest rising and falling too quickly. A man waking up from a dream into a nightmare of his own family's making. I'm so sorry, he whispered, voice cracking. I don't know how she became like this. I didn't respond. I wasn't here to comfort him anymore. After a long, tense silence, I said, pack a bag. He blinked. What? We're not staying here tonight. He stood slowly, confused. Where will we go? Somewhere she doesn't know, I said. Somewhere she can't walk into, somewhere we can breathe. I gathered Matteo's things, formula, diapers, clothes, his blanket, and shoved them into his diaper bag. Adrian moved around the room like he was in a daze, putting shirts and pants into a duffel without even seeing them. Before leaving, I did something important. I placed the envelope back on the table exactly where it had been. Maury evidence. Maury truth. We left the apartment and got into the car. The moment the doors closed, I felt a wave of relief, a thin one but enough to keep me steady. Adrian drove silently, hands gripping the wheel too tight. I told him where to go. My friend Lena lived 30 minutes away in a gated complex with secured entry. She was a nurse like me, someone I trusted deeply, someone who wouldn't judge or ask too many questions. When we arrived, I carried Matteo upstairs while Adrian followed with the bags. Lena opened the door with wide, worried eyes. "Oh my God, what happened?" "Can we talk inside?" I asked softly. She nodded and led us in. We sat in her living room while Matteo slept in the portable crib she always kept for visiting friends. The moment he closed his eyes, my heart eased slightly. Then I told her everything. From the DNA test, to the forged results, to the custody document, to the threat inside our home. Lena's face hardened with every detail. By the end, she looked angrier than I had ever seen her. "This is not normal behavior," she said. "This is dangerous, you need serious protection." Adrian stared at the carpet, ashamed. The tension in the room was suffocating. When Matteo finally fell asleep, Lena offered to make tea while Adrian stepped onto the balcony to call his brother. I stayed seated, staring at my hands, feeling everything at once and nothing at all. Lena sat beside me. "Maria, are you okay?" I swallowed, eyes stinging. "I don't know." She placed a gentle hand over mine. "You're the strongest woman I know, but even strong women need safety." I nodded but didn't speak. I didn't trust my voice, not yet. Minutes later, Adrian walked back inside. His face was pale. "What happened?" I asked. He hesitated, then whispered. "My brother said Mom is saying we kidnapped Matteo." My stomach dropped. "What?" "She's telling relatives that you're unstable, that you took the baby after a fight, that you're dangerous." I felt the world tilt. Dangerous. Unstable. Kidnapping. She wasn't just manipulating family. She was building a narrative. A case. A reason to involve authorities. Adrian slowly sat down, looking sick. "Maria, she's trying to get the police involved." For a moment, everything inside me went cold. Deadly cold. I spoke carefully, deliberately. "She wants to create enough fear, enough noise, enough doubt, that someone steps in and takes Matteo away." Adrian whispered, "She's trying to make you look like an unfit mother." I nodded, then added something even darker. "And if that doesn't work, she might try to take him herself." But he covered his face. "God, what have I allowed to happen?" I didn't comfort him. Instead, I stood, my voice low but steady. "Tomorrow," I said, "we file a restraining order." He looked up, startled. "Yes," I continued, "against your mother, for trespassing, for harassment, for threats, for attempted custody interference, for breaking into our home." Adrian swallowed hard. "Maria, she's my mother." I stared at him. She stopped being a mother the moment she became a threat. He lowered his eyes. No defense. No protest. Just the truth settling heavily on his shoulders. That night, Lena set up blankets for us on the floor. Adrian tried to sleep, but I heard him crying softly when he thought I wasn't awake. I didn't say anything. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the air conditioner, the only sound that didn't feel hostile. As my eyes finally grew heavy, a chilling realization settled inside me. Teresa wasn't done. She was becoming more desperate. More dangerous. More unpredictable. And desperate people don't stop. They escalate. And for the first time since this began, I wondered how far she would actually go. The next morning, sunlight spilled through Lena's curtains, warm and soft, but inside me everything felt cold. I barely slept. Every time Matteo shifted in his crib, I jolted awake, afraid Teresa might somehow appear in the doorway, claiming him as hers. The thought alone made my chest tighten painfully. Adrian was already awake, sitting on the floor beside the air mattress, staring at nothing. His face looked hollow, drained, older. He didn't sleep either. Guilt had carved new lines into his expression overnight. We didn't talk, not yet. There were no words big enough for what was happening. Lena made coffee and handed me a cup with a concerned look. "The lawyer said she can meet you at noon," she reminded gently. Don't let this wait. I won't, I said quietly. Adrian looked up. I'm coming with you. I didn't respond, not because I didn't want him there, but because a small part of me still hurt, still doubted, still questioned whether he was capable of choosing me over her when it mattered. But this wasn't the time to interrogate that feeling. Survival came first. Matteo whimpered, waking slowly. When I picked him up, he nestled into my shoulder as if sensing the tension around him. He was my anchor, tiny, innocent, warm. Every breath he took reminded me why I needed to be strong even when my insides felt like shattered glass. After we ate a quiet breakfast, Adrian stepped outside to take another call. His phone had been buzzing since dawn, family members, cousins, even his aunt. Teresa had spread her story far and wide. Maria kidnapped the baby. Maria is unstable. Maria is dangerous. The lies travelled fast. Truth always took longer. Adrian walked back inside, shoulders stiff. She's telling everyone that she's going to press charges. I felt my blood run cold. For what? For parental interference, he whispered. For endangering the child, for emotional abuse. She's telling them she has proof. Proof. Fake documents. Fake signatures. Fake narratives. She was building a case. I clenched my jaw. She's preparing a bigger accusation. He nodded miserably. Yes, and if someone believes her, even for a moment. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I knew what he was too afraid to say. If authorities got involved. If anyone questioned our fitness as parents. If even a hint of doubt entered the system. They could take Matteo. My lungs tightened. A deep, painful instinct rose in me, something primal, feral, a mother's fear, a mother's rage, a mother's vow. No one is taking my baby, I whispered. Lena put a hand on my shoulder. Then you fight back, harder than before. At noon, we drove back to Lynette's office. Matteo slept in my arms while Adrian walked beside me, his hands trembling every few minutes. Inside, Lynette reviewed the envelope photos, the text threats, the forged custody petition, her eyes narrowing further with each piece of evidence. This is serious, she said. Very serious. Your mother-in-law is escalating in dangerous ways. Adrian's voice cracked. What do we do? Lynette folded her hands on the desk. We file an emergency protective order today. It creates a legal barrier she cannot cross. If she contacts you, approaches your home, your workplace, or attempts any further interference, she can be arrested. Adrian swallowed. Arrested. You need to understand something, Lynette said firmly. Your mother is not behaving like a concerned grandmother. She is behaving like someone attempting to unlawfully take custody. The law won't view her kindly. Adrian lowered his head into his hands. I explained what I feared most. She's telling people I took Matteo. She's spreading lies everywhere. What if she goes to the police before we file? Lynette shook her head. You're filing first, you're bringing evidence, she's bringing stories. Courts care about evidence. I nodded. Adrian's voice was barely a whisper. Will this stop her? Lynette hesitated. People like your mother, she said carefully, don't stop because of paper. They stop because of consequences. Adrian closed his eyes, pain slicing across his expression. We signed documents, pages and pages of statements, timelines, evidence descriptions. My hands shook only once, when I signed my name on the line that said petitioner seeking protection. Protection. Not from a stranger. Not from a criminal. From his mother. We left the office with instructions to return the next morning for the judge's review. As we walked to the car, Adrian asked quietly, Do you think she'll show up today? I tightened my grip on Matteo's carrier. Yes. His eyes widened. You really think so? I think she knows she's losing control, I said, and people like her don't accept losing, they strike. He leaned against the car, closing his eyes in exhaustion. How did we get here? I didn't answer. Some questions didn't have gentle answers. Back at Lena's apartment, tension clung to the air like humidity. Every phone buzz made us jump. Every small sound made me glance at the door. This wasn't fear of the dark or fear of the unknown. This was fear of someone we knew too well. Around evening, Adrian's phone buzzed again. Another unknown number, his face drained as he read it. "What now?" I asked. He handed me the phone with shaking fingers. "A text from Teresa. You can hide her, you can hide him, but you can't hide from the truth." Another message followed instantly. "I'm coming to take what's mine." The room fell silent. Dead silent. Lena stared at the screen. "Does she know you're here?" Adrian shook his head. "No, I didn't tell her." "Then someone else did," she murmured. "A family member. A cousin. Someone Teresa manipulated into spying for her." Adrian's breathing grew rapid. "Maria, she's coming to this building." I stood up, pulse pounding in my ears. "We need to call the police." Before he could dial, another message arrived. A photo. Taken from outside Lena's building. Teresa's car parked near the gate. My stomach twisted, nausea rising. She was already here. Lena locked the door immediately. She can't get inside without a code. As if on cue. Bang, bangs, bangs. Someone pounded at the main entrance downstairs. 3 heavy, violent knocks. Adrian froze. Lena's face drained of color. I held Matteo tighter, pressing his tiny body against my chest, my heartbeat pounding against his. Another message buzzed. "Open the door, I know you're inside." My mouth went dry. Adrian whispered, voice cracking, "Maria, I'm scared." So was I. But fear wasn't going to save us. "We're calling the police," I said firmly. I dialed with trembling fingers. Before the dispatcher could finish greeting, I said, "I need officers immediately. Someone who is legally threatening my child is trying to force entry into the building." As I gave the address, another knock echoed, closer this time. She had gotten inside the main door. Lena whispered, "She knows the gate code, how?" But I knew the answer. Adrian knew the answer. Someone in his family had given it to her. Or maybe she never forgot it. Teresa's voice echoed down the hallway now. Calm. Controlled. Chilling. "Open the door, sweetheart. Don't make this harder." Adrian backed away from the front door. "Oh God." I stepped into the bedroom with Matteo, locking us inside. Bangs against the main apartment door grew louder, angrier. Adrian shouted from the living room, "Mom, stop." Her voice cut through the air. "You don't understand. She's dangerous. I'm trying to save you." Adrian cried out, "No, you're the one hurting us." Another bang. Then, crack. Something on the door splintered. My heart stopped. Lena was calling to Adrian, trying to hold the door. The dispatcher said officers were 6 minutes away. 6 minutes felt like a lifetime. I held Matteo close, one hand on his tiny head, whispering, "It's okay, Mama's here, you're safe." But even as I whispered it, I wasn't sure it was true. Because the woman outside wasn't simply angry. She wasn't simply manipulative. She wasn't simply controlling. She was unhinged. And she was breaking in. The banging on the door didn't stop. It became louder, harder, so violent that the wood groaned with pressure. Matteo stirred in my arms, a tiny cry leaving his lips. My heart clenched. I whispered, "SHH, Mama's here. I won't let anything happen to you." But the truth was, the door wouldn't hold much longer. From the living room I heard Adrian shouting, "Mom, stop, you'll get arrested." Teresa's voice came sharp, wild, trembling with obsession. "Open the door now, she's not fit to raise my grandson." My breath caught. There it was. The final truth. The thing she had been hinting at, building toward, planning for months. She didn't want Adrian back. She didn't want reconciliation. She wanted my child. She believed she had the right to take him. And she believed nothing, not the law, not her son, not even reality, could stop her. The door shuddered violently. Crack. I heard Lena gasp, "She's going to break through." Adrian yelled, voice cracking. Mom, please stop. The police are coming. Another bang. Teresa screamed. That baby is mine. Everything inside me went silent. Still. Focused. People often think rage is loud. But the most powerful rage, the kind that protects a child, it is quiet, cold, absolute. I stood, turned toward the locked bedroom door, and held Matteo against my chest. Then, finally, sirens. Fast. Sharp. Close. Teresa froze outside the apartment door. Her voice faltered. No, they can't be here yet. Adrian's voice broke. You did this to yourself. Within seconds, heavy boots thundered up the hallway. Police step away from the door. Teresa whimpered, Officer, please, you don't understand. My son and grandson are in danger. She's unstable, she stole the baby. The officer's tone turned icy. Ma'am, we received a call that you were attempting to force entry into a private residence. No, she shrieked. She brainwashed my son. She's a danger to the child. Ma'am, the officer barked, turn around and place your hands behind your back. She screamed, an animalistic raw sound. Mattoo, Grandma's here. Grandma will save you. Adrian shouted, voice breaking, Mom, stop. But it was too late. There was a struggle, a thud. Handcuffs clicking. Teresa sobbed as officers began escorting her away. You can't take him from me. You can't, I'm his family. I opened the bedroom door. Her eyes locked on me instantly, wild, frantic, desperate. You did this, she spat. You destroyed this family. You'll regret it. You'll regret this day. For the first time in months, I felt nothing toward her. Not fear. Not pity. Not anger. Nothing. Just finality. I held Matteo closer, kissed his forehead and said calmly, No, Teresa, today is the day I finally got my family back. The officers led her out of the building. Her screams echoed down the stairwell until the front door slammed shut behind them. Silence. Real silence. Not the heavy, fearful kind. A clean silence. A beginning. Adrian slumped onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. He cried deep, painful sobs. Months of denial, guilt, blindness, all crashing down in a single moment. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I should have believed you, I should have protected you, I should have protected our son. I didn't speak. I didn't have to. Some truths hurt more than any scream. Lena sat beside him, rubbing his back. We'll get through this, she murmured, but she needs help, real help, and you need boundaries. That evening, the police returned for statements. Photos were taken. Evidence collected. Our emergency protective order was approved the next morning. The judge didn't even hesitate. Teresa was barred from contacting me, contacting Adrian, coming near Matteo, entering our home, sending messages, involving relatives to harass us. If she violated it once, she would face prison time. 3 days later, she was sent for a psychiatric evaluation. The court ordered therapy, monitoring, and distance. Adrian visited his mother once. When he returned home, he simply whispered, She's not who I thought she was. I nodded softly. Pain has a way of opening eyes. Our marriage didn't collapse. Not the way many expected. But it didn't go back to what it was either. It became something new. Stronger. Sharper. Boundaried. United. Trauma either breaks people apart or welds them together. We chose to weld. Weeks passed. Peace returned. Matteo laughed more. Adrian slept better. I breathed deeper. One evening, I stood by the window holding my son, watching the city lights flicker like tiny stars. Adrian wrapped his arms around me from behind. He's safe, he whispered, because of you. I exhaled slowly. He's safe because we finally saw the truth. He nodded. I'll never let her near us again, ever. I believed him. But more importantly, I believed myself. Because I had learned something powerful through all of this. People can take your peace, your trust, your sense of safety. If you let them. But your strength, your voice, your fire, your motherhood, no one can ever take that. Not even someone who shares your blood. The night ended with Matteo falling asleep in my arms, his tiny hand resting against my heart. I kissed his head. We're safe now, I whispered. Mama made sure of it. And for the first time in months, I knew it was true.